Hi, hello, good morning, everyone. A little impromptu live stream I thought we'd do as we await the verdict for Jennifer Crumbley. Show you really quickly. I do have it pulled up here. Left the audio back on in the courtroom, so let's see what's going on. I might have to change my thumbnail to the verdict. If they do send us back to break and we don't have a verdict yet, we're going to watch some of Ethan Crumbley's Miller hearing because there's some really scary stuff in there. But you got to remember that the things that were brought up in his, let me put this on mute while we do that. The things that were brought up in his Miller hearing were not all shown in the Jennifer Crumbley trial. And so that's why I didn't really want to watch it until now, because I didn't want to confuse everybody that was just getting started with this case. If you've been watching from day one, you knew all about it. But if you hadn't, then you have a more, I would think, a jurors' bird's eye view, I guess, so to speak, of Jennifer's case. We might have to put a new poll up eventually and talk about how people feel about her guilt. I think I'll add that. So we'll just wait till they bring it back on. Usually when they brought the volume on in the courtroom, that means they're gonna at least meet to discuss something. For all we know, they could just be dismissing more of so yesterday what they did was they took the 5 backup jurors and they dismissed 3 of them still to their homes, but said, "You're still in sequester. You're still sequestered. You cannot speak with anybody about this trial, but we probably are not going to need you, so we're at least gonna allow you to get back to your life a little bit." So they sent 3 of those home, and then they kept 2 of the backup jurors in a separate room from the deliberation room. And what they've said is that if they do have any jurors that withdraw and they have to replace them with a backup juror, then deliberations start all over again. A lot of you guys already know this stuff, but I thought I'd just kind of keep you up to date on it. They're bringing Jennifer in. Something's going to be talked about. We don't know what, though. Oh, shit. It says they've reached a verdict. I got to change my thumbnail. They have reached the verdict. I can't believe it. Wow, my timing is impeccable. Welcome in, those of you that are new. Oh, I got a oh, see again. Hey, Casey. You knew it wouldn't take long? I think they're going to say that she's not enough evidence. That's my opinion. Hey, Sean. Hey, Lane. We have a verdict, guys. Guess I can take my banner down. I thought we were going to be watching some of Ethan's stuff while we awaited the verdict, and I just happened to come on, and then the audio came on from Law and Crime, and they're like, "We have a verdict." I was like, "Holy crap! I wasn't expecting that." So what do you guys think? Drop it in the comments. Hi, Rita. Hey, Elizabeth. Hi, Irene. Oh, Irene's with us. What time is it there, honey? Hi, Darlene. Eric. Is that lawful law? I don't know, Eric. Hell, I don't even know. My sleep pattern is so screwed up that I've only been up an hour and I'm still on my first cup of coffee. Hey, Robin. How are you, hun? All right, let's see what goes on here. I think they don't have enough evidence. I think it wouldn't be a hung jury. It would be a not guilty at this point if they've already got a verdict. So the hung jury's out. Hey, Richie. I'm surprised. Casey said she knew it would be quick, but I am surprised. I really thought they would be in deliberations longer. Richie, they've got a verdict. They're coming in with the verdict. He said, "I just asked you not to interrupt me again, because everything I branch up has no merit in your court, none." Eric, you trying to be slick? We're gonna have a Brooks video this week. We have to do at least one, right? A week to keep y'all sane and out of trouble. Otherwise, y'all go off in tangents and stuff. At least when y'all have tangents, y'all gonna have it here on this channel. Just watching the victim statement before even sentencing, I don't believe neglect can be characterized as manslaughter. Well, if you were with me last week, we read what involuntary manslaughter, how it was defined in the state of Michigan. If I felt we had time, I'd read it again. Let me look. I know Sarah Boone's already, y'all, Sarah Boone has already, she's trying to get rid of her, or no, she's not trying to get rid of him, but she's running off another attorney. Her 7th attorney is fixing to be ousted, but the judge has to agree with it. And I'm honestly, y'all, I don't think the judge is going to let it happen. He's going to say, no, you have to stick with this crazy lunatic. Okay, they're recording. I'm going to be quiet now. Me too, Elizabeth. My sleep patterns are so screwed up right now. I was up till 4 a.m. Irene, you think she's guilty? I don't know. I don't know about that. Remember, it's involuntary manslaughter. Let's see. They have to have proved that the victim died because of that person's actions. The actions that person took were egregiously negligent, or they intended to cause the victim harm by not necessarily hurting them. But see, it says that you did not have lawful justification for taking the victim's life. Now, I think we're looking at more of the specific circumstances listed in Michigan law that are considered an involuntary manslaughter, which are the purposeful killing of an unborn child, if you administered any drugs, substances, medication, or instruments while intent to kill an unborn child. And the other one, which is what we're dealing with on this case, I guess, would be if you intentionally no, that's not the one. Point a gun at someone and accidentally fire it. So that's an example. If you intentionally point a gun at someone, but you accidentally fire it. I just don't see how it falls in here, y'all. I just don't see how it falls into the. The prosecution had to have proved that the victims died because of Jennifer Crumbley's actions. That her actions or egregiously negligent, or she had intent to cause them harm. I don't know. No one is muted. I think not guilty. He muted me. Oh my God. You know what's sad about y'all with that muted thing is I can't ever tell when y'all are serious or y'all are doing a drill. A Daryl. We hee and a kiki and Eric. That's what we do on this channel. We hee and we kiki. All right, Your Honor, I object to the jury viewing my vehicle. Your what was it we call it? Your Airbnb on wheels. Yes, Polly D, the verdict is in. Did they bring in? They didn't bring in the jury yet, did they? Ain't gonna be no jury view without me. For those of you that are coming in to watch this with us, we're a little bit hyped on the Daryl Brooks stuff on this channel, if you're not familiar. And when people say things in the chat, forgive them for they know not what they do. It doesn't make sense to some that are just coming in, but to us, it makes complete sense. Okay, so here's a solid question for you guys. If she's not guilty, if they say not guilty, do we think she's learned her lesson? Type 1 for yes in the chat if you think she's learned her lesson. Not that it matters because she doesn't. Thank God she doesn't have any more children, huh? I was listening to his video recording, Ethan Crumbley's recording that he did, and we can watch it after this if y'all want to. It's some stuff that he said that he recorded. I don't know if it was, I guess it was in like an Instagram or something. Eric put 3. I think she's had the hell scared out of her. I really do. Anyway, it was scary, you guys, what he was talking about. I mean, the kid's not dumb. He's not dumb for sure. So we'll listen to that when this is done, if y'all want to. I bet the 3 jurors that they sent home yesterday are so glad that they got sent home. Because now they don't have to worry about this coming back, for sure. Which means they had 5 alternates, you guys, and they didn't need any of them. Of course, it was what? It started on a Thursday and it ended on a Friday? Or was it Thursday? It wasn't that long of a trial, to be honest. 7 days. It wasn't even 7 days. Was it 7 days? Maybe it was. What's Shannon wearing today? I always like to look at her outfits. She looks very formal today. She always looks nice. I will say that. So what do you guys think is going to happen with Shannon after this trial? Is she going to go, she's going to be on a ton of different shows being interviewed and everything, you think? I don't think she will be. I'm wondering who is going to be Jennifer Crumbley if she's found not guilty, if she's let out. Who's going to be the first one that does her interview? Hey, Aqua Eyes. The chat and the mods in Law and Crime don't like you. You said the magic word GUN. That's why. Yeah, somebody was telling me they don't like chatting in the Law and Crime. You know why? Because there's so many people that come in that don't really pay attention. They just drop in on the trial every now and then they make stupid comments, and then it gets everybody in an uproar. Because when you search for it, that's the first thing you find is them streaming the trial, right? So you get every crazy in the world coming in just to make one stupid statement. Hey, Kevy G. Yeah, it is a tough one. But I think because they're already back, I think it's a not guilty. See, when they came in and asked yesterday, it was around the lunchtime hour. The only thing that I'm aware, and because I looked this morning, I didn't see where they had asked any other questions. They said, "Are we going to be able to view some more evidence?" Because they knew there was more evidence out there because of Ethan's trial, and they thought they were going to be able to view more about him and his notebook and his Instagram posts and things like that. And they said, no, it's not a part of this trial. So they couldn't use it. And I think the jury's thinking, well, without that, if we can't use that in this trial, then we don't have all the evidence that we need to convict her. Reasonable doubt. Hey, Barbara. At least she can see her son in prison. I have to go to the cemetery. I have to go to the cemetery to see mine, but that's my burden, so I'm not saying she should suffer the same. Yeah, she's gonna need to move if she is let go today. She'll have to move and go somewhere else, and she'll probably have to change her name. Yeah, Aqua Eyes says I was very shocked that they didn't double down on her when she let slip that they had took the gun off of him. Yeah, I think the prosecution didn't go hard enough on her. I think the prosecution screwed up when they arrested, well, not arrested, but when they let go of her questioning. I thought they'd have her on the stand for a whole day. They didn't even have her on this. What was it, half a day? Not even that. It was very disappointing. So I don't know where they were. You know, they finally got her up there, and then they balked. You guys, let me know if my audio is too loud. I did turn it down on my end. Not me, not the courtroom, but me. Barbara, thank you for your coffee this morning, honey. I appreciate you. I did get it. I'm drinking it right now. Hey, Laura. Here we go. I'm not sure. Obviously, my thumbnail's up because y'all jumped on here, so I guess I'm good. Bruiser's excited about the verdict. getting situated in his spot next to me. Y'all hear him? He makes all kinds of squirming noises. That's my little rat chihuahua. Okay, let's see. Aw, Aqua Eyes, we're always kind here. Hey, Lenny, you made it. All right. Yes, Bruiser, the verdict. And then I also, there was, if you guys feel like it after they read the verdict, because I have a feeling that this is going to be not that long, we can watch some of what the psychiatrist said about Ethan in his hearing. If y'all would like to stick around. Hey, Tony, welcome in. Did I miss saying hey to anybody while we're waiting? I know I did. I know I missed some of y'all. I apologize. Hey, Mike. Oh, Mike Edwards, thank you so much. Eric said, I'm here under fraud and duress. I think they know that they lost it. Look at them. You never know, though. But they do say that when it doesn't take the jury long, it's usually a not guilty, right? Hey, MD Habib. You better accept for value in return for value this live stream, Eric. Here we come. Here comes the jury. Did I watch or did I've never streamed anything from Ethan's, well, I did like some updates on Ethan's hearing and stuff. We did stream something, but I don't like to do the victim impacts, you guys. What I wanted to watch was some of the things that his recording that he did, and then there's a testimony from the psychiatrist that met with him.
Court is now in session. The Honorable Shirley Matthews presiding.
So we'll watch that when this is over with, but I'm gonna mute until then, okay?
Your Honor, calling People versus Jennifer Crumbley, case number 22279-990 FH.
Good afternoon, Karen McDonald on behalf of the people.
Thank you, Marquise, on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, I'm Shannon Smith on behalf of Jennifer Crumbley, who sits to my left.
All right, are you ready for the jury?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to ask when the jury reads their verdict. After that, I want everyone to remain seated. Okay.
She wants to sit up with us. Stacy.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
They still have to wait for the jury.
To stay seated after when the verdict's found. After that, and after that,
It doesn't matter.
you can stay. If you want to.
Okay. Do you want me to
You know she's shaking in her ankle cuffs.
All right, to the jury.
Y'all know what I was thinking? That I lost my thought. Never mind. Her hair. Okay, so about Jennifer Crumbley's hair. Y'all, I think she's scared to take a shower in jail. I think she's scared to go to the showers.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been informed that you got a verdict. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you the correct person?
I am.
Could you please read your verdict?
Individually?
Sure.
Okay. On count 1 of involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. On count 2 of involuntary manslaughter in regards to Tate Muir, We find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Oh my God.
On count 3, as to involuntary manslaughter regarding Hannah St. Juliana, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter. And of involuntary manslaughter against Justin Schilling, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Thank you for allowing me to see it.
Holy crap. I
Juror
didn't
in
think.
seat number 1, was that and is that your verdict?
It is.
Juror in seat number 2, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 3, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 5, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 6, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 7, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 8, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 11, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 12, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 13, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 14, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Juror in seat number 16, was that and is that your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you very
Oh, my
much,
word.
ladies and gentlemen. We all know that this is one of the hardest things you've ever done. I'm going to ask you to return to the jury room. The 2 remaining alternates are also going to join you, and I'll be with you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Are you guys as shocked as I am? I just didn't think they were gonna. I thought they were gonna say they didn't
All right, you may be seated.
have enough evidence.
Time as we go, and I'm considering April 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning for sentencing that.
That should be fine, Judge. Thank you.
April 9th at 9 o'clock is fine, thank you.
I'm going to ask everyone to remain seated while the defendant is taking out the court. Okay?
All rise.
Didn't they just say sentencing for tomorrow morning?
You may be seated.
Irene says she's not shocked. You guys, I watched this trial from the very beginning, which is, I haven't been doing that with all these trials I do. And because I wanted to get a juror's perspective. And I didn't watch all the hype on the media stuff. Like, I'm just, oh my gosh. I'm going to turn them. Look at him. I don't like the cocky attorney. I think he's an arrogant ass. Look at him. He's like, shots are on me, baby. Yeah, I mean, they didn't show the victim's parents, did they? Till now. Press conference. Let me see if I can find the press conference. Oh, hang on, let me turn this back on. Hang on, you guys. I'm Googling to see if I can find the press conference, okay? You know they're going to have one.
Discussed over the years and being in these situations. At the end, especially I would imagine from the prosecutorial side, it's about justice. You brought a case because you believed that a crime had been committed, the defendant committed the crime. You had the obligation on behalf of the people of the jurisdiction, whether it's federal government or in this case, the state government, to present that evidence to establish what you believe is guilt. You did your job. It's done. It's not going to bring back the 4 children. So you knew if there was going to be 1 count guilty, all 4 counts were going to be guilty in this case because each one of those children that was killed.
Right.
So you're not going to bring those kids back. you're not going to ease the pain for their families. So, you know, in terms of gloating, feeling happy, there's nothing to feel happy about.
I don't want to get struck for playing this part, y'all. Hang on. I don't want Law and Crime to strike me for playing that because I don't know if they would strike me for playing their commentary stuff. So, what I was thinking is, I want to hear what this. I've got it pulled up. I'm checking for press conferences, but until then, let's listen to this audio played by Ethan. I guess this was like an Instagram post or a Snapchat post or something that they did.
The name is Ethan Crumbley, age 15. And I'm going to be the next school shooter. I thought about this a lot. I can't stop thinking about it. Like, it's constantly in my head. Every conversation I have with someone, no matter what, I'm thinking about it and I can't get it out. It's currently November 29th, 2021, 10:05 p.m. The school I'm shooting up is Oxford High School. I'm in 10th grade there. I've always been fascinated by guns when I was a kid. I always wanted to join the forces and SWAT when I was in 3rd grade.
I see you obviously are looking for Shannon Smith, some of the other players in this case, so I want you to be able to do that. But maybe you can talk to us just a little bit about how precedent setting this is. This is all eyes on this from across the nation. We've seen so many school shootings and so many people not held accountable in terms of parents. And now when we see this happen, we're going to have everyone looking at this case to say, do we charge others who may be responsible?
Well, first of all, let's take a look at the facts as to what happened. Obviously, 4 students were killed, 7 others were shot. Prosecutor did only to charge them on the death. So there's 4 deaths here, 4 charges of involuntary manslaughter. But these charges came down 3 days after the shooting. Obviously, the evidence was there's a lot of evidence here to bring those charges, to get a judge to sign off on those charges, and to have the prosecutor actually bring the charges so close to the time of the shooting. So the precedent is going to set, if there is a school shooting, the law enforcement will now look to the parents, and they're going to ask the same questions that were asked in this case. You know what? Let me just a couple of things. These are some of. These are some of Jennifer Crumbley's friends that were in the back of the courtroom.
Sure.
She had some people there. They do not want to talk. You could tell. Just from the look, they were disappointed.
Sure.
Jennifer Crumbley did have friends. She had some spiritual advisors that came in. They have a right to clergy, and they were the clergy there, but they did not want to talk. Maybe they'll talk later, but not now. I think, Amy, your question,
We'll go back
to
to
your
the
question
audio
about the precedent setting, now,
when this is
parents
over.
beware, because if your kids do something really bad, like a crime, the cops are going to come to you. And in this case, they put Jennifer Crumbley in handcuffs while they questioned her at the station. They're going to look at your text messages. They're going to look at your phone records.
I
They're
wonder
going to
if
look at where
because
you
they
are.
ran had
Is this an
anything to do with
invasion
it.
of your privacy? No, it's not, because a crime was committed. And I think this case is going to extend the long arm of the law to to these parents. And a lot of people were saying when this case was picked here that we need somehow to get the parents involved. This is a, generally speaking, for the country, I don't know if anybody's listening, for the country, Oakland County is a very conservative place. So generally speaking, people want accountability. And where do you start but the parents? And I think that's what the message is going to be with this case. You better look at your kids, what they're watching video-wise, what they're texting, who they're talking to, who their friends are. Parents, especially your 15-year-old. I think that's going to be the message.
Charlie, real quick, if you have a moment, I just want to ask you,
Brandon?
you talk about messages that are being sent here. What does this mean for James Crumbley?
Well, that's a good question. I would have said that James Crumbley had the worst case as far as the prosecutor. James Crumbley was the one that arguably that bought the gun. So his case now, perhaps there's a little more evidence against James Crumbley. And that was the strategy from these. When you have two defendants, there's always a strategy. Do you try them together as a united front, or do you separate them? And in this case, Jennifer Crumbley's attorney said, no, we're going to separate them, because the most important factor was that James Crumbley bought the gun, which a lot of people were saying, that's worse. Yet it was Jennifer Crumbley that took the shooter to the gun range just a couple of days before the shooting. And I don't know if the jury hung their hat on that, but certainly Jennifer Crumbley knew that the shooter had a gun, went to the gun range, and then posted it on Jennifer Crumbley's social media. Look at the Christmas gift I got for my 15-year-old. I don't know what the jury thought about that, but it probably wasn't very good. I would say in James's case, you always have to think about a plea, perhaps. Does James Crumbley now, the husband, want to go through all this, or maybe he can, finagle some kind of a deal with the prosecution? It's always a possibility. And if I'm Crumbley's attorney, and Jennifer, who may not have as much culpability, just got convicted of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, I got to be scratching my head and saying, maybe I should consider a plea. They've already served 2 years. I don't know what the doctor losses at that time. There'll be plenty of talk.
Yeah, I wonder how long they'll keep her.
Again, James is just so we know here. James's attorney did file a motion to exclude the actual evidence of the shooting, which, there is some legal arguments about whether the jury needs to actually see the actual shooting. This jury saw the actual shooting. Did that play a role? I don't know. You bet it could be an issue on appeal. And I would suspect, without talking to Shannon Smith, the attorney for Jennifer Crumbley, there will be an appeal on some of the issues that we've already talked about.
See, I was thinking that because they brought in that stuff from the shooting, was that because her attorney ignored it, didn't even question those witnesses.
Well, they allowed it in, and that was a subject, again, that'll be subject of an appellate court's decision. Listen, one of the damning pieces of evidence here is the journal that the police found, that the sheriffs found in the shooter's backpack. It's a journal that's got some terrible things. You saw the journal, allegedly written by the shooter, saying, I've been reaching out to my parents and I get no help.
But it wasn't
tomorrow,
shown here.
A lot of innocent people are going to die. They only have 1 day to live. Remember all that testimony? It's all in the evidence. But allegedly, that was done by the shooter. And as a defense attorney, I can't cross-examine the shooter. I would suspect that that would become part of the appeal. Should that have been into evidence? And then should the jury have considered that in the overall picture? Again, I don't know. I'm saying, will it be an appeal? Yes. Will that be an issue on appeal? Yes. But listen, at some point, the jury is sending a message right now. Parents, be accountable for your kids. I think that's the easy lesson in this case when we just got done hearing 4 counts, guilty, involuntary manslaughter for a parent. Amy, Brandon?
I was going to say, Charlie, you mentioned this was a surprise to some people about this verdict. This trial has sparked a lot of conversation in our newsroom, and I'm sure in other workplaces all across the area. But is there anything to look back on in the arguments from either the prosecution or maybe the defense that maybe the jury kind of resonated with on what maybe have led to this verdict?
Listen, again, I didn't try the case. However, had I tried the case, I would have thought long and hard about putting my defendant, Jennifer Crumbley, on the stand.
Detroit, too, Fox has had the best coverage on
when
this
the defendant takes the stand.
trial.
Now, juries want to hear from the defendant, but the judge tells the jury, You don't need to have the defendant on the stand. Yet Jennifer Crumbley was on the stand. The other thing, too, is that the defense attorney got the judge to exclude evidence of her affairs. And yet she kind of opened the door and the jury heard all about the affairs. Now, I don't know if that played a role, but it certainly didn't help. When your star witness is maybe not the parent of the year and has some, whatever. She was obsessed with horses and she was obsessed with men or whatever. It probably didn't help her. And in this day and age, and here's the lesson for the parents, defendants do testify. They testify on social media. Their text messages are admissible. Their interviews in the back of the sheriff's car, which we saw, it's admissible. Their interview at the substation just the day of the shooting with Jennifer Crumbley talking, it's admissible. And so therefore, defendants do testify. So 2 years down the road, when the defendant takes the stand, it's almost self-serving testimony. And so that's why, as an attorney, I would say it's a real danger. Listen, did she do terrible on the stand? The verdict is guilty on all accounts. So you be the judge of that.
Yeah, I think Charlie.
That's what struck me.
Right. And I think what struck me about that, too, as far as Shannon Smith, I think that the effort there, maybe the thought process, again, I don't know, I haven't spoken with her, but it seemed like she was trying to say, look, we're putting all on the table. We're being totally transparent, maybe in an effort to kind of further explain all of the things that the prosecution had already revealed, all those videos that you're talking about, all those text messages and social media posts and everything. Like, we're here to be honest. And that was the impression that I got from her in terms of that decision to put her on the stand. But obviously, it did not work in their favor.
Well, listen, I appreciate the honesty, but I also want to win the case. Listen, Jennifer Crumbley is not the most likable person in the whole wide world. I was beyond about it, and it came across in the testimony. Some of the answers were very short. She was asked, "Do you regret anything?" No. Would you have done anything different? No. Do you think you're a victim? Yeah, I might. I cringed when I heard that testimony. Listen, when you get a good ruling from a judge, like excluding all of your affairs, keep it out of evidence. The judge gave you a favor, in my opinion. But again, listen. Everything is in play. I have honesty and an interest in theory. It didn't work in this case. Maybe in some other case it would.
So you guys, we had said part of the appeal could have been incompetent attorney, legal defense.
I am live, literally outside of the courtroom.
All right, Charlie, we appreciate your work. We know that you've been out there for about 2 weeks straight, as well as being in this community for the past 2 years.
I'm going to keep this up, but I'm going to mute it for right now because they haven't come out yet. But I'll stay on this channel and we'll talk a little bit. I want to read what you guys are talking about. Her affair had nothing to do with CB. Hey, CB. Hey, Lisa. You guys, I feel like her attorney screwed up. I think her attorney screwed her. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to leave that. Hang on. I want to put over here, I want to pull this up on my other screen so I can see when the press conference comes on, and we'll go back to what we were listening to with Ethan until then. And then when they go live for the press conference, then I'll put it back on. So this is what they played during Ethan's Miller hearing.
Navy SEALs when I was in 4th. Marines, 5th or 7th. Army, Rangers. And I've never thought of a career. I've never had motivation. I kept lying to myself that there was something out there for me. There was something that was going to make me happy. that was going to provide me a happy, loving, caring life. But that's bullshit. It's all a lie. I realized that. Oh, in 9th grade, I never thought of this. I thought I was going to make it through school and go into army, but I realized, what's the fucking point? Millions have done it. Thousands have regretted it. Thousands have killed themselves because of it. You know, many come back and not happy, not satisfied. And I'm thinking, it's the only thing I want to go into, but how will it make me happy? How will I love doing that? How will I love? How will I? And I realized that that's not going to work out. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? And I realized all the bullshit that was right in front of me, and I never realized it. I was always the kid who said, work hard in school and you'll get a career in life. But the career is bullshit. And it was right in front of my fucking eyes the whole time. I couldn't see it. The school system is, their main goal is to put youth just born into this world to learn. And they actually learn fucking good. They learn K for 5. They learn useful stuff. Stuff about the world that teaches them not how the world is, but how it should be, and how they want it to act be. The teachers brainwash them into what they think is right, and their minds are so underdeveloped that the adults just take advantage of it. And they say that's too good for humanity. And when you get into middle school, that's even more useless. It's just an excuse to wait till the kids grow up. They're wasting years of their life learning knowledge they're most likely never going to do unless they become a Nobel Prize scientist or mathematician or the fucking founder of a multi-million-dollar environment club. And they're brainwashing. They're teaching a working class into this world. There's no teaching of working class centuries ago. They're either born into it or they weren't. You were born into a working class, you were forced to work. You weren't born, you helped develop the world. You created technology, you created advances in civilization. There was only two indifferences, and the working class rose up and made everyone a working class. And now, no matter what, you just have to work to do what? You spend 15 years of your life just hard studying and trying your hardest to achieve the best out of anyone in any school. And then you get accepted into college. And you could be rich, so you don't have to worry about it, or it could put you into thousands of debt. And you get a useless job that other people have gotten, and you think that it is doing something for this planet. You think that all those years of working and you get a job is doing something for the good of humanity. It's fucking not, it's useless. The education system, the government, is just brainwashing people to be a working class. They're all brainwashing them just to fucking work and keep society how it is, but people want to go a different direction. They don't want to. They want to work, but they. See, that's why I don't fucking understand it. I'm not dumb enough to fully understand their capabilities. I'm not as dumb as them, so I can't understand. But they want to revolt and become a new class education system that just weakens everything. They want to fucking keep the innocence of everyone. They want to make sure that monsters are a thing. They're offended of a horror movie. They want to take away what this world is. In this world, it's not heaven. There is no heaven. There is no God. There is no Satan. There is no hell. But the world is hell in its own way. People don't think of it. You think as hell is the bottom, earth is the middle, and heaven is the top. But in reality, the earth is just hell. And it's always been that, and people want to just forget it. They want to just take away what already is. And it's stupid. I'm taking action. People go and protest, fucking take away guns or make what I'm doing. I believe I am one of the first people to do this. I'm not only shooting up the school because I'm mentally depressed or mentally ill and have anxiety that struggles me every day, but I'm doing it to teach a word and all the simplicities. I don't fucking know how to say that. All the fucking dunces out there. The brains are too, skulls are too fucking low to understand everything. Unfortunately, the people I kill are the people that are killed. I'm sorry that their families have to go through this, but it's for the right of humanity. And the course we're going, we're fucked. In 50 years, we're fucked. Nothing's going to happen. Democrats and the Republicans are just going to fight, and people are keep going to taking sides and sides and sides. And some people are going to stick out and say they're the big brainers who don't think of it, but really they're the main problems. And it's just leading to a collapse. The world worked so hard for thousands and thousands of years. When the war happened, peace was a thing. People understood everything. People understood the logistics of human civilization. The time from 1920 to 1980 was the golden ages of humanity. In some countries may not have been that way. But for the big ones, it was the golden age. Everyone understood the world, but knew how to keep it in order. They knew the differences because war and peace. They knew that they could cooperate and live together. And now people are just taking that away. What I'm doing is an act to show that people are taking it away, and I'm trying to preserve it, to show that no one is safe, no matter how hard they work. Your protests aren't going to do anything. They're just words, they're not actions. No one would care if I go up to the school and shout a sign, "We're too innocent. Bring back to equality between violence and peace. You'll think I'm fucking delusional. But to take action is what you have to do. Action is the only thing out of humanity that has made us this far, has brought us this far in a civilization. And society is collapsed. Civilization is no more. People don't see it, but we're on the brink of downfall. Like not just the break, but the beginning of the end, basically. Everyone is born, works hard, and thinks that everything's going to be the same for hundreds of years. The technology will advance and that's it. But that's not how it happens. When the bell rings to end 5th hour, tomorrow, October 30th, November 30th, 2021, I'm going to walk to the dividend between the boys and the girls' bathroom. I will have my black jacket on, and I will walk behind someone, and I will shoot a bullet in their skull. Yeah, that's my first victim. I'm going to open fire on everyone in that hallway. The hallways are too jam-packed. I will try and hit as many people as I can. I will reload, and I will find people hiding. I'm going to teach them a lesson of how they're wrong, how they're being brainwashed.
Okay, they're talking to a few of the parents, so let's go over this.
One of the fathers of the victims is giving a statement. Let's listen.
With your child, it is your choice to have a child, and you cannot choose to not take care of your child. You cannot choose to not nurture your child. You cannot choose to take your own interest over your child, especially when it comes to mental health and addressing, concerns, problem. I mean, everything about that was disturbing. There's a lot of stuff that could have easily thwarted this whole thing. It could have been stopped very easily.
What will you see their verdict?
I don't really have can't pinpoint any thoughts, but definitely it's a relief to have it behind us and be able to shift focus to the next one. I mean, so I would definitely shift focus to the next one. I mean, so I would definitely say that it was just a good load off your chest.
Mr. Chairman, what would you like to be sitting through the testimony and the fact that you'll have to do this again in March?
Well, it's okay. I'm fully committed to seeing it through every step of the way on every trial that comes through about this.
And school officials, what is your hope that this message sends to school officials here in Michigan and across the country?
Well, certain situations, everybody is responsible to exercise their diligence and comb through everything. And I feel strongly that it's important to make sure that we're doing our jobs. And I know that as a parent, or I know that there's always something in your mind that you have to do when you get out of work, and there's stuff to take you focus off of what your job is. But it's just so important, and you can't stress it enough that you have to take your time and look at every possibility and look at every angle and just explore the situation in its entirety. And there's a lot of blatant facts there that, could have been addressed differently. And it's just important to be diligent with your jobs, whatever they may be. And everybody has their own important part of society, and just make sure you hold on to that importance and know what it's for.
What would you say to Jennifer Crumbley right now, if you could say anything?
We have been listening to the statements of Craig Schilling. He is the father of 17-year-old Justin Schilling, who was killed at Oxford High. He's one of the parents who had given victim impact statements throughout the time of the trial of Ethan Crumbley, but also now we're hearing now that the mother of Ethan Crumbley is being held accountable, convicted in all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for the deaths of not just Justin, but 3 of his peers. I want to bring in Jessica Levinson. Jessica, we were just talking about, the details of this case, and this is the first parent, but both parents are being charged. What does this guilty verdict do to the case of the husband who actually went with Ethan to purchase the gun? And does this have a significant impact in the outcome of that case?
He's more culpable.
So I think we could view it actually one of 2 ways. On the one hand, we can say we found the parent who we think was most responsible. We found the parent who had the duty, breached the duty, and was at least one cause. On the other hand, I think what we could say is we now have a situation where, based on what Ethan did, based on all the warning signs to both his parents, based on how both his parents helped him access the gun, failed to store it, were at the school, saw that drawing, that this now shows that criminal culpability is appropriate for him as well. I don't know which way that will break, but I frankly think you could argue it out either way in terms of whether or not this is bad for his father. I tend to think the fact that the jury was willing to say, yes, we're going to extend that criminal liability out, essentially one concentric circle, that's not good for him.
I see. And one of the questions that I had just listening to the case coming from the defense and the statements that were made by the defense attorney, especially during closing arguments, I kept wondering, could this be grounds? The fact that the statements made were sometimes so outrageous and disconnected to the actual case and painted Crumbley in such a negative picture just to make the case that she's not a perfect parent, but she's also not guilty. Do you think that's grounds for perhaps an appeal, and the fact that this case is just, it has no precedent?
So I think that we should be careful about attorneys arguing vigorously and sometimes using hyperbole. And there's been a lot of different cases that you and I have talked about. And typically speaking, there can only be grounds for an appeal if, while an attorney is arguing, then you hear an objection and you hear the judge saying something like, I'm sorry, members of the jury, strike that, don't consider that. But attorneys are given broad leeway to try and cast their story in the best way possible for their client, whether or not you're a prosecutor and your client's the people, or a defense attorney and you have an individual client. So I'm not sure that I'm seeing grounds for an appeal there. Again, this is a novel application of involuntary manslaughter and gross negligence, but I think the defense trying to cast this in the best way possible for them, and or the prosecution doing the same, I don't think that's going to be grounds for a successful appeal.
Well, Jessica Levinson, Elaine Quijano, thank you so much. We will continue to cover the developments in this unprecedented, truly historic case. In the meantime, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Doha, Qatar, pushing for a new ceasefire.
This whole thing could have been stopped very easily.
Now, what were you feeling as the jury was reading their verdict?
I don't really have can't pinpoint any thoughts, but definitely it's a relief to have it behind us and be able to shift focus to the next one. I mean, so I would definitely say that it was just a good load off your chest.
Mr. Chilling, what would you like to be sitting through another week of testimony and the fact that you'll have to do this again in March?
Well, it's okay. I'm fully committed to seeing it through every step of the way. every trial that comes through about this.
And school officials, what is your hope that this message sends to school officials here in Michigan and across the country?
Well, on certain situations, everybody is responsible to exercise their diligence and comb through everything. And I feel strongly that it's important to make sure that we're doing our jobs. And I know that as a parent, or I know that there's always something in your mind that you have to do when you get out of work, and there's the stuff to take focus off of what your job is. But it's just so important, and you can't stress it enough, that you have to take your time and look at every possibility and look at every angle and just explore the situation in its entirety. And there's a lot of blatant facts there that what could have been addressed differently. And it's just important to be diligent with your jobs, whatever they may be. And everybody has their own important part of society, and just make sure you hold on to that importance and know what it's for.
What would you say to Jennifer Crumbley right now, if you could say anything to her?
I would probably say something along the lines of, you wouldn't have to go through any of this if you would have just done your job as a parent. And you can't foresee certain things like this, and you don't really know. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the hyper vigilant dad, but you have to adhere to the warning signs from your children, especially. And I mean, she said it, that he was feeling depressed, and back in April. That was a long time before this happened. So you had a chance to do it, and you didn't. And now it's your turn.
Thank you.
The prosecution team handshaking and shook your hand as that verdict was read. What was that like for you?
It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Excuse me. Sorry.
They have all, worked tireless hours going through evidence and, bringing this to where it is. And, it's not a spectacle. It's not for like political gain or anything. It's for the truth. It's for addressing a problem that we have in society that nobody has been able to address yet. And getting it there was important. And I applaud her and her team for all of their efforts. And I want to hug and shake hands at everybody here because of that. I appreciate them, and I have the utmost respect for them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. My arm is about to fall off.
And you were listening to a gentleman give his reaction to the jury finding Jennifer Crumbley guilty on all charges of
Okay, let me go back to the chat and hear what you guys are saying. Y'all want to listen to this, what we were listening to earlier with Ethan's thing? He's still got a few more minutes of that. And as we wait for this, this press conference, let's go back to that. I have to find it. It's got about 5 more minutes, I think. YouTube's brain.
Going to prison for this. Michigan doesn't have a death penalty. I don't want to die. As funny as it may seem, I'm going to kill other people. I do not want to die. I realize how valuable life is. And I realize I broke the code of what's happening. I broke the code. I realize what is actually happening. And these people, they don't have the capabilities of understanding it. I'm someone to teach the entire nation and the world of what's happening and how we're on the brink of downfall. I'm going to be using the 6R SP2022. I brought it at Acme Firearms up here in Michigan on Friday. It is a 9mm pistol. It takes 15 plus 1 ammo capacity. I have 3 magazines for it. I've worn my mask for too long. I can't take it anymore. I've broke. I've fought it for years and for years, lying to myself over and over again. But it's taught me the truth. There's no voices in my head. The voices are me. I am the voices. I am arguing with myself back and forth. I have 3 constant voices, and then there's me physically. And I'm doing whatever those 3 voices tell me to do. And one of them is always coming up on top. And that's the one that's taking over. That's what people call the demons. There are no demons. I am the demon. You are the demon. In turn, there is a demon in everyone that is the voice. The demon will take over. There's nothing I can do about it. My life is already on a downfall. If I don't do this, nothing will happen. The world will collapse. I will be in misery. I'll probably just end up in a useless career in the army and killing myself. What use is that? I have the chance to teach the world to become a better place. And I have to take that chance. I've missed many opportunities in my life, and I'm not missing this one. I'm going to try and flee the school for as long as I can until I get caught.
I don't think it wasn't a bully thing, you guys. He was just sick in the head. I almost feel like he was trying to teach his parents a lesson more than he was anybody else.
Just the thought of, there's so many people who think they're going to live a life, go to college, have a great career, get a family, grow old, die happily. But they don't know that in less than a day, they're going to die, and their lives are going to be changed forever. I understand my consequences. I understand that people put me in prison for this. I've already said goodbye to everything. I went for all the phases. I'm surprised I even do it today. I'm sorry for motivating you, Mom and Dad. You have trust in me. I made sure you had trust in me, and I just disowned you. But you should know it's for a cause. And I am ruining my life and not yours. Help me.
Detective, there's a much shorter video that the defendant filmed right after that. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
All right, that's that.
57, November 29th, 2021.
Oh, this is a shorter one?
Fuck that previous video I took. That was bullshit. What I said. I'm gonna have so much fun tomorrow. I have a goal. And it's to kill everyone.
I have no more. Nope.
Jeez. This kid was screwed up, you guys. But I do think that it was all about getting back at mom and dad. More than it was, because he didn't say anything about being bullied, talking about the system and there was another thing I wanted to show you guys as we await the press conference. This is his detainment while he was in the Oakland County Jail.
In my exhibits as S body cam jail footage. There are a few videos, but we have shortened them. This is sound, so I don't know if we can have your staff just make sure the sound is perfect.
Why didn't you save her? Why didn't you save her? Why didn't you save her?
Move to the next one.
You don't stop it. Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? I know she stopped it. Please stop 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 it. Why didn't you stop it, God? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it, God? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? You let it happen. Why? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, God. I'm sorry. Please, I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, God. Stop it. You couldn't stop it, God, but you didn't stop it. And now I continue. It's always stop it. God, stop it, please. Stop it, God. Stop. Stop, stop, God, God, stop. Stop pushing forward. Stop. God, stop, please, God. Oh, stop it. Stop. 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 God, stop. God, stop it. Please. I just stop it. I just stop it. Let's do it. Stop it. Right foot back. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Way back. It's stop it, God. Please stop it. You didn't 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 stop it. Sit there. You don't stop it. You don't stop it. You don't stop it. Oh God, you gotta stop it. Please tell me. Oh, no, you didn't stop it. You didn't stop it. You didn't stop it. All your supers are satanic locations. You didn't stop it. Don't remove fire, so there's a satanic location. Just ask. All right. Yeah. On count of three, you're gonna sit down. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead, tell me what. You're gonna call. You're gonna sign. While you listen. You don't stop it. Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? Why don't you stop it? Please stop it. 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 Why did you stop it? God, why? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it, God? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? You let it ask me.
All right. Doctor, what did we just witness?
So we witnessed a child in the throes of psychosis. But we just witnessed someone who's saying, God, why didn't you stop it? And that's exactly how psychosis works. You engage in an action and somehow you don't understand the outcome of the consequences. He's having a panic attack and a break with reality.
We also hear him saying you could have saved her.
That is correct.
In any part of that video, do you see Ethan being violent?
No, ma'am.
Are mental health issues perfect? I mean, he's obviously been on medication now for a period of time, and things like this obviously can still happen. What is your explanation to that?
So medications are not an exact science. There's different levels of titration. There are times when some medications work, and there are times when they don't always work.
All right, let's go over to this one. This is a different doctor weighing in on him. And just for you guys that are coming in, I'm still watching on my other PC. So when the news conference pops up, we'll transfer over to that, okay?
Approximately 50 times in various counties in the state of Michigan.
Madam Person Minister. Yes. This is People's Proposed 66. Doctor, can you please tell the court what I just handed you?
This is a copy of my CD.
Is that your most up-to-date CV?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, at this point, the people will move to omit 66 as well as move to qualify this witness as an expert in the field of forensic psychiatry.
Any objection to either?
No objection.
Thank you. With that, People 66 is admitted into evidence. This witness will be reflected as a witness in the, as an expert in the area of forensic psychiatry.
Thank you, Judge.
You're very welcome. We continue.
Thank you. Doctor, do you always author a report after conducting a forensic examination?
I do.
Okay. And when you write that report, do you document the materials you reviewed and coming to your conclusions?
I do.
Okay. Would that be the best practices in the field?
I would say so, yes.
Why is that?
It's important when the readers of our report, which are typically attorneys and judges, that they know where our opinion came from and what we relied upon to come to our opinion. It's also important when we're testifying to know and be able to reference when we're speaking about our opinion.
Doctor, are you familiar with the defendant in this case?
I am.
Did you evaluate him in your capacity as a consulting forensic examiner for the Forensic Center?
I did.
And when was that?
I evaluated him on March 15th, 2022.
And what was the purpose for that?
I saw him at that time for an evaluation relative to his criminal responsibility.
Okay. Did you prepare a report?
I did.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes. This has been admitted as People 64. Doctor, do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is that?
This is my report regarding his criminal responsibility dated March 29, 2022.
Okay, and you authored that report?
I did.
This is Defense Exhibit N, as in Nancy. This is a report authored by Dr. Colin King from June of 2023. Have you seen that before?
I have, yes.
Doctor, I would like you just to have all three of those exhibits next to you, and if you need to refer to them for any reason, just please let the court know. Now, the purpose for the evaluation that you conducted and Dr. Colin King conducted were different. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But they did, in fact, address many of the same issues. Would that be right?
That's correct.
Now, in your report, it appears that the sources of information that you relied upon span the first 6 pages of Exhibit 64. Is that right?
That's right.
Now, Doctor, were you able to listen to Dr. King's testimony in August the 1st of this year?
I was.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to your report in Dr. King's testimony, it appears that you reviewed all of the information that Dr. King reviewed, aside from some self-reporting that the defendant made to Dr. King. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Now, I want to address a few points from Dr. King's testimony in his report and ask you if you agree or disagree. So, first, Dr. King testified that the defendant is, without question, someone who is mentally ill. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
And that was, in fact, in his report. Is that true?
That's true.
And in Dr. King's report, he was referencing the Michigan statute defining mental illness. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Do you agree that this defendant meets the statutory definition for someone who is mentally ill?
I don't.
Could you please explain that?
Yes. I want to start by saying that the common conception of mental illness, for example, if someone has anxiety or depression, that's different than mental illness that is defined by Michigan statute. My understanding of Michigan's definition of mental illness is that it is a substantial disorder of thought or mood that significantly impairs someone's judgment, behavior, capacity to recognize reality, or ability to cope with the ordinary demands of life. So in my earlier example, someone who has anxiety or depression and that sees a therapist might not meet criteria for a statutorily defined mental illness because it doesn't rise to that threshold of a substantial disorder of thought or mood. Now, the statute doesn't specify which disorder automatically meets criteria, but the notion of a substantial disorder of thought or mood is thought to apply most readily to something like psychosis, which is a gross impairment in recognizing reality, or to something like a major mood episode, like a manic episode or a profound mood episode. So in this particular case, I took all of the data that I have available to me, including the defendant's report to me during our multi-hour interview, as well as all the information that I listed, to come to a conclusion that he did not meet criteria for a substantial disorder of thought or mood, specifically at the time of the shooting.
So, doctor, somebody could actually be experiencing internal crisis or symptoms of depression and still not meet the definition of mental illness and certainly not be psychotic. Is that right?
Correct.
Doctor, you were in court when the defense played the videos of the defendant in the Oakland County Jail. That was Defense Exhibit S, as in Susan.
Aqua was asking about this being a trial. So this was the Miller hearing for Ethan. And let me put it really quick, because I made a banner on this at one point to talk about the Miller hearing. Miller hearing is a hearing required by law when prosecutors seek a life sentence without the possibility of parole for a minor defendant. So that is why they had to do all this, because he did plead.
First of all, did you know that that incident, those videos were depicted from one incident in particular?
I was told that, yes.
Okay, and that was from May the 26th of 2023, which would have been about a year and a half after the defendant had been locked in the Oakland County Jail after the murders. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Dr. King testified that those videos were evidence that the defendant was in throes of psychosis. What do you make of those videos?
So those videos were taken from an incident in May of 2023 of this year. So those videos tell us about the defendant's mental state during that one incident in May of this year. It tells us nothing about what the defendant's mental state was like in November of 2021 when the shooting occurred. Now, whether the defendant has developed depression or an adjustment disorder like the jail psychiatrist testified in the year and a half that he's been in jail in a cell by himself, it's possible. But I do think it's important to note that the jail psychiatrist who has been seeing the defendant during her testimony still noted that the defendant was not psychotic and did not treat him for a psychotic disorder even after those videos occurred in May of 2023.
And doctor, you're referring to Dr. Kadar, who testified in, I think, July the 28th of this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And of course, you were in court for that testimony?
Correct.
And you reviewed her records as well?
I did.
Now, specifically, Dr. King testified that he diagnosed the defendant with major depressive disorder, severe with psychotic features. Do you agree with that diagnosis?
I don't.
Tell us why.
There are several reasons. I want to start by saying that when we try to diagnose someone in a forensic assessment, or when we're trying to decide whether someone meets criteria for that statutory definition of mental illness, we like to rely on multiple sources of data. Now, there's subjective data, and then there's also objective data. And an example of a subjective piece of data would be the defendant's self-report. It is an important piece of data that we consider, but it is subjective. It's their own experience of what they were going through. Now, an example that might help people understand is if you go to your doctor and you walk in and you say, I have pneumonia, you would expect that that doctor would do more than just take your word for it. You would expect that they would use their clinical judgment and their expertise to determine whether what you're saying actually meets the clinical diagnosis that you think you have. And it's the same way with mental illness. So if someone says they have hallucinations, we need to do more than just take that at face value. We need to use our expertise as well as all the other data that we have in a case to determine whether that's true.
So, doctor, if I could interject, that doesn't mean that he didn't tell his friend or that he didn't tell his parents. It just means as a clinician, you'd want to do further investigation before you give an actual diagnosis.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so my understanding of Dr. King's diagnoses is that he relied on the defendant's self-report and what he self-reported in text messages, for example, as well as on a variety of psychological tests that he conducted, the majority of which were self-report checklists to come to that conclusion. Now, when I decided whether or not he had a statutorily defined mental illness, I took into account what the defendant told me and those text messages that were referenced, but I also looked at the more objective data that we have in this case, and there's actually quite a lot. So for example, objective data would be something like the videos of the defendant immediately after the shooting, during the shooting, in the police substation. And in those videos, there's no evidence that the defendant was objectively exhibiting signs of psychosis during that time. So what we see in those videos is that the defendant was communicating clearly, he was calm and collected, he was answering questions relevantly, suggesting reality-oriented thought processing. What we don't see is any signs of bizarre behavior, disorganized speech, responding to internal stimuli.
Could I ask you just right there, what is internal stimuli?
When someone's actively hallucinating, the clinical term that we sometimes use is responding to internal stimuli. So imagine that you're hearing a voice or seeing something that other people can't see or hear. That would be distracting. You might be looking around trying to figure out where the voice is coming from. You might be talking under your breath, responding to this voice. You might be looking around, seeing something that other people can't. In none of these videos does the defendant appear to be doing that. Now, that would be incredibly atypical to present with none of those signs that I mentioned if someone was in the midst of an acute psychotic episode. In addition to the videos, though, there's also other more objective data that I also considered, and that included all of the jail records where the defendant was monitored quite consistently in the hours, days, weeks, months after this offense. And in none of those records does any clinician ever describe him as appearing psychotic, despite some occasional self-reports of hallucinations of hearing his name. And so again, that would be quite atypical for someone who was acutely psychotic to then show no signs of psychosis immediately after the shooting and no signs of psychosis in the days, weeks, and months after the shooting, despite not being treated with an antipsychotic medication.
And doctor, can I stop you again? Now, Dr. King testified that psychosis can wax and wane. I believe that was his phrase, wax and wane. Now, tell us about that, please.
While it is true that symptoms of mental illness can appear more severe at some times and be in remission at other times, it would be incredibly atypical for someone who was acutely psychotic to then show no signs of psychosis both during the shooting, immediately after the shooting, and then for months after in jail without treatment. Again, if someone was treated with an antipsychotic, maybe they don't show symptoms. But the defendant has never been treated with an antipsychotic medication, and he's never been diagnosed with psychosis because no jail clinician ever observed him objectively psychotic.
In fact, doctor, did you actually ask him about if he was hearing voices to help in your determination if he was in an acute state of psychosis during the shooting?
I did. So in addition to all that objective data, I asked the defendant if he was hallucinating at the time of the shooting, and he told me he was not. He told me he wasn't hallucinating during the shooting. He told me he wasn't hallucinating in the days prior to the shooting. And I specifically asked him if he was experiencing what's called command hallucinations, which are voices commanding you to do something like harm someone else. And he specifically denied those as well. He also didn't attribute any of his behavior to delusions, and he didn't attribute any of his behavior to psychosis, even subjectively.
So doctor, that covers the psychosis aspect of the diagnosis. What about the major depressive diagnosis? Tell us about that.
Yes. So while it's clear that the defendant had signs of low mood and anxiety and loneliness going back to even spring of 2021, that's apparent in the text messages. To be diagnosed with a major depressive disorder requires a degree of functional impairment that I don't believe the evidence suggests that he had. So for example, even when you look from the spring of 2021 onward, when you look at what the defendant was actually doing in those months after he started reporting low mood, he was working several days a week. He was hanging out with his friend on a regular basis. He was doing things that brought him pleasure, like hobbies of coin collecting and model rocketry. Even as it gets closer to the shooting, it would not be unexpected that when a person would suddenly lose contact with a cherished friend, that that person would be more upset and more sad. That, of course, would be an expected reaction. But even in that month, after he loses contact with his friend, he's still doing things that brought him pleasure. He told me that he brought a bird head into school approximately 10 days before the shooting because that brought him a feeling of pleasure and power. He told me he went to the shooting range with his mom, which he described as fun. When you look at the totality of the data, while I don't contest that he had low mood, I don't think that he met the level of functional impairment that's necessary for a major depressive disorder diagnosis.
And again, doctor, we're not talking about someone who was quote unquote depressed or experiencing crisis. We're talking about the statutory definition to meet major depressive disorder and being psychotic, correct?
Correct. And again, there are different things. It can be difficult to understand. Someone can have anxiety and depression and not meet criteria for a statutorily defined mental illness.
In fact, doctor, in your report, Exhibit 64, you spent considerable time explaining your analysis. That'd be pages 59 to 64. Is that right?
That's right.
Do you have a copy of that report?
It should be in that binder, Judge. If not, I have an extra copy.
I'm looking back. I don't see there, like all the news stations have gone off of the press conference. Wonder what's taking them so long. I wonder if they're going to have one. Do you think they're not going to have a press conference today, you guys? I don't think they are. Even Detroit too, the one that's been keeping up with the trial, even they closed down their live stream on it. So I guess that's it. I guess that's all we're going to do today. I know that the trial, probably not. Judge said sentencing tomorrow at 9 a.m. Yeah, that's true, Melissa. They'll probably do it after the sentencing. You're absolutely right. They're saving it. It's a good point. All right. We'll come back for the sentencing in the morning. I may go live again tonight with some Judge Tammy stuff, or later this afternoon. I just love Judge Tammy. She makes me feel better. I thought they said 9 a.m. in the morning, Aqua. That was going to be the sentencing. Unless I missed it. Sentencing is April 9th? Okay, I did miss it then. No, you heard no press conference because JC is up because of his trial coming up. The James' trial. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, they're in the jury selection for the Adam Montgomery trial. Patty, somebody said it's not till April 9th. I'll find out. If it's in the morning, we'll be here. I'll be live. I thought she said tomorrow too. I know James's trial doesn't start until the 5th of March. Muffy, where'd you get that date? Is that what you heard this morning? I'm not going to follow the Adam Montgomery trial. I mean, I might do some clips on it. It's just such a sad case. And what happened to that little girl, you guys? Ugh. YouTube does not like, they don't like that kind of content. So I don't know. I'm just kind of about it. I was following, I did some pieces on him before my channel was first starting up. She was such a cute little girl, Harmony Montgomery. But I just feel like it's just it's too much. It's too much for me. I'd rather, I want to stick with Judge Tammy and do some stuff there. Yeah, it was just brutal what he did to his daughter. All right, Miss Patty. Be good, honey. So I'll if I don't come back on tonight with some Judge Tammy, then I will see you guys tomorrow with some Judge Tammy, but I'm definitely coming back here soon. Y'all be sweet. Stay safe. And have a blessed day. Thanks for watching.